courageuses, intelligentes, etc. Toutes les qualités que vous pouvez imaginer. Et souvent, elles sont même mieux, c'est-à-dire qu'elles ont des qualités que n'ont pas les hommes. Elles ont par exemple l'intuition, elles ont la diplomatie. Voilà, par exemple, dans Les Enfants du Capitaine Grant, quand le traître ne veut rien avouer, c'est finalement Lady Glenarvan qui parvient à le faire avouer. Jules Verne a beaucoup souffert de ne pas avoir de réelle reconnaissance. Il est resté longtemps considéré, même toute sa vie considéré comme un écrivain pour la jeunesse. Il a été très triste de ça, il aurait voulu rentrer à l'académie, il n'y est pas parvenu, il a essayé plusieurs fois que son nom soit présenté, mais ça n'a jamais marché parce que réellement, ce qu'il écrivait semblait trop facile, trop aventure, pas assez psychologique évidemment au goût de l'époque.
Moi je dis toujours tant mieux qu'il n'ait pas été à l'Académie française, parce que sinon ça aurait été un écrivain rasoirissime, parce qu'il aurait travaillé son style, il aurait réécrit, cherché le bon l'équilibre, et il aurait perdu ce qui fait toute la force de Jules Verne, une vitalité, une force que du coup une écriture extrêmement stylisée, extrêmement travaillée n'a pas.
Si Jules Verne a une telle place, c'est qu'il a eu un génie propre, unique. En fait, c'est une récompense des énormes efforts qu'il a fait, parce que Jules Verne, il a accumulé la documentation, il a accumulé les procédés, et il a fini par créer une formule unique. Et donc, je dirais que c'est la récompense posthume d'un homme qui s'est beaucoup battu pour être reconnu.
EMI ऑप्शंस के साथ इतना आगे है वो सब चीजें कि लोग बहुत उसको एक इजीली ले लेते हैं कि अच्छा हम तो EMI करा लेंगे। कई बार दो ऑप्शंस वो ऑप्शन की वजह से लोग एक्स्ट्रा भी ले लेते हैं।
हमारे लिए इसलिए ज़रूरी था क्योंकि मैं फील्ड वर्क करती हूँ, बाहर मुझे धूप में घूमना पड़ता है। मुझे लगा अगर मैं घर जाऊँ तो थोड़ा मेरे को कंफर्ट जोन हो, किचन में काम करना पड़ता है, वहाँ भी काफ़ी गर्मी लगती है। जितने में मैंने AC लग रहा है 50,000 में, इतने में गोल्ड ले सकते थे जो इन फ्यूचर हमारे काम भी आ सकता था, बट मैंने प्रायोरिटी AC को दी क्योंकि मुझे लगा ये भी हमारे लिए ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है। क्या था जब AC नहीं था तो हम लोग छत पे सोने जाते थे, बट रात में भी होता है, गर्मी काफी होती है, टाइम हवा हो या कुछ हो, और पहले लोगों को अपने घर होते थे लोग छत पे चले जाते थे, बट आजकल लोग क्या फ्लैटों में रहते हैं, वहाँ पर छत भी नहीं होती है, तो इसलिए कंपल्सरी है कि AC आजकल लोगों की जरूरत बन चुकी है।
Hollywood, a nine-letter word symbolizing the city and so much more, now represents an industry in turmoil.
I've been really just been like working survival jobs, so it's been disappointing, and it's I still am really hopeful that it's going to come back, but there's no kind of indication that's true.
LA has experienced crisis after crisis, including COVID, strikes, and wildfires.
I was in love with this house. I was proud of the fact that it was the first house I actually bought. I've been a renter all my life. It sucks. Totally sucks.
And now other US states are offering competitive alternatives.
And so just to have this available to film is a great asset. Albuquerque can offer other backdrops to films besides just a desert landscape.
But industry players are taking action. Hollywood, on the brink, a new episode of Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.
Thank you for joining us here on Around the World with me, Delon D'Souza. The headlines this hour. Hamas agrees to a U.S. ceasefire proposal in Gaza. The latest development comes as ultra-nationalists in Israel march through Jerusalem Old City to observe Jerusalem Day. French farmers protest outside the National Assembly in Paris over fears the far left and Greens will water down a bill intended to loosen regulations. And the trial of a French surgeon who sexually abused hundreds of his patients, mainly minors, wrapping up. 74-year-old Joël Lusquamec told the courtroom he didn't want leniency. First, at least 52 people were killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza on Monday, including in overnight attacks on a school-turned-shelter. The IDF says they targeted militants which had been operating from the premises. The Israeli army, meanwhile, has also issued new evacuation notices for Khan Yunis. As the military offensive in the enclave gathers pace, international condemnation continues to intensify. Germany has become the latest country to question Israel's goal in Gaza. We can now bring in our correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky, standing by in Jerusalem. And Noga, we have news coming in that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire proposal by the United States. What do we know about the proposal and the pressure coming in from Washington?
Well, we don't have full details yet, and in fact, we have a little bit of a contradiction. Reuters, as you said, is reporting that Hamas has agreed to a U.S. Gaza ceasefire plan. I'm reading this because it's from minutes ago, and that this ceasefire plan would include the release of 10 Israeli hostages over a period of 70 days in 2 stages. Now, we understand from the Israeli government and from President Trump that at least 20 or 21 Israeli hostages are still alive. So this is a partial plan at best, and it's a ceasefire that would last 70 days. However, a Hamas official speaking to the Al-Quds television channel issued a somewhat contradictory statement also just in the last few minutes, saying that Hamas has agreed to a U.S. proposal for a permanent ceasefire. That would indicate an end to the war, and we can suppose the release of all of the Israeli hostages, alive and dead. So clearly something is being cooked up in the background right now, but we don't yet fully know.
And also that would also mean an end to the war and Israeli withdrawal of the enclave. Because also, while all of this is going on, we had that the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, a big blow to this organization that was about to get up and running after its head, Jake Wood, resigned, saying the organization could not adhere to the principles of impartiality and neutrality. What do we know about this fund?
Well, here also we have some breaking news, which I will read to you aloud. The leader of the Israeli opposition, Yair Lapid, just suggested in parliament, in the Israeli Knesset, that it is the Israeli government using front companies abroad that is funding this entire aid proposal. And I'm emphasizing this because U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, just last week said that it is wholly untrue to say that Israel is behind this initiative for aid distribution. However, now we're hearing from the leader of the Israeli opposition that it appears to be some kind of semi-secret or subversive Israeli effort, and the spokesperson for this, for Yair Lapid, the leader of the Israeli opposition, has gone further and is asking whether Israeli security personnel and Israeli funds were not sent abroad so as to organize this entire procedure, which, if it's the case, I think is at least a borderline legal maneuver on Israel's part. And as you said, this organization, of which we know very little, lost its CEO today. He himself hinting that he was leaving because he realized he could not maintain the humanitarian and independent values that he had vowed to keep.
And Noga, all this is happening on Jerusalem Day. Earlier today, we had Israel's far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who was at Temple Mount with a rabbi as well.
Not just with the rabbi, with several Israeli members of the parliament, with a few more ministers, behaving in blatantly illegal ways, including lying down in front of the mosque of Al-Aqsa, prostrating themselves in prayer. All of this while, of course, Itamar Ben-Gvir is the Minister for National Security, so the minister in charge of police. And as we speak, Delano, there are extremely violent incidents taking place in the old city of Jerusalem around Damascus Gate, with basically hooligans and thugs who are pro-government, pro-Netanyahu government, pro-Ben-Gvir, assaulting Palestinians and assaulting Israel police officers. It's an almost out-of-control situation right now and still very much developing.
Noga, thank you very much for that update. Noga Tanapolsky reporting there for us from Jerusalem. Now, Donald Trump says Vladimir Putin has gone absolutely crazy. The US president was referring to this weekend's aerial attacks on Ukraine by Russia. While Trump suggested he is mulling new sanctions on Moscow, he also had some sharp words for Ukraine's president, adding that Vladimir Zelensky does his country no favors by talking the way he does. Antonia Carrigan reports.
Having once called Vladimir Putin a genius for invading Ukraine in 2022, Donald Trump's indulgence seems to be wearing off.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay?
He then doubled down on the platform Truth Social, saying his Russian counterpart has gone absolutely crazy. The Kremlin reacted hours later and were conciliatory in comparison, emphasizing their gratitude for the US launching peace talks, but not shifting their position on a ceasefire.
This is a very important moment, which of course is fraught with emotional stress for everyone, causing emotional reactions. We are closely monitoring all reactions. At the same time, President Putin makes the decisions that are necessary to ensure the security of our country.
This weekend saw a prisoner swap in which Russia and Ukraine traded 1,000 prisoners each, but also a record 900 Russian drones fired into Ukraine over 3 days, according to Kyiv, overwhelming Ukraine's air defenses and killing several people. Trump has been trying to broker a ceasefire and spent more than 2 hours on the phone with Putin last week. But despite toughening up on President Putin, President Trump did not spare his Ukrainian counterpart.
Likewise, President Zelensky is doing his country no favors by talking the way he does. Everything out of his mouth causes problems. I don't like it, and it better stop.
Zelensky said on Monday morning that the international community spends more effort on dialogue with Putin than on applying actual pressure, and called on Europe and the